A few winters ago, what we thought would be your normal, shorter power outage, a typical power outage, turned into something that was almost 6 days long without power. That means there's no heat and no water coming from the well, which also means no plumbing, there's no way to cook, and there's no refrigeration. Since then, we learned something pretty important, and that's that Mother Nature doesn't care about your optimism. And as we've seen time and time again, natural disasters can be absolutely catastrophic. In our area, sometimes the power's back on in an hour or so, or in situations like I just talked about, it could be out for days. There's also the chance that things could last a whole lot longer than that, depending on what caused it. My point is, we can't control how long the grid is going to be down, but we can control how ready we are for it. And that's why we don't hope for the best anymore. We plan for the worst, and then we cross our fingers that it doesn't actually get that bad. And in essence, that's what preparedness is all about. In this video, I want to go over the checklist that we run through before every storm and a few things that might help you out as well. That way, when the power does go out, you're not scrambling around in a panic, and you've got everything squared away as possible, just in case things do really get that bad. Now, keep in mind, in the situation I'm talking about today, we have some advance warning, but sometimes we won't, and that's why it's important to stay as prepared as possible all year long. It also makes going through a checklist like this a whole lot easier because you've got most things done. It's more of a just double checking everything. So with that, let's start with power and light. And the first one that I always check is making sure the batteries and the power station, everything that takes energy, everything that I can refill is topped off. All the power stations are charged to 100%. All my rechargeable batteries, from the AA's to the Life PO4 batteries, the LFP batteries, all of those are charged up and ready to go, because you don't want to go into a situation where you have your batteries are half charged or you've got a bunch of dead rechargeable batteries, because that'll put you behind the 8 ball right there. Along with your batteries and power stations, you also want to make sure all your devices are charged up, since you have this advanced warning. And this is your cell phones, your tablets, your laptops, any of these devices that you might have that have rechargeable batteries inside of them. Lanterns, radios, flashlights, and headlamps. And along with flashlights and headlamps, make sure you know where these are as well. Have them placed around your house. We've got one that stays behind the TV, and that's our go-to flashlight whenever we need it. Got one in the coffee table, a couple in the kitchen. We've got them all over the house, but they are strategically placed and we know exactly where they are. Also with batteries, your batteries that aren't rechargeable, the energizers and batteries like that, make sure you check your inventory and make sure you have as many as you think you have for the supplies or the electronics that will need those. Make sure you have some fresh, unused batteries. While I'm doing this, I also check out my lights out kit, and some people don't have a lights out kit, but I put one together and I use it because if I'm not home and the grid goes down, this is a perfect little kit for the rest of the family. They can open it up and they can find all the things that they'll need in the beginning stages of a power outage. The flashlights, radios, a small power station, maybe even an extension cord, whatever you decide to put in there. Even games will help anybody out when you're not home. You can also add instructions in here about how to start the generator or turn on the transfer switch. And that's the next one I do, is make sure the transfer switch is in working order. I pull out the inverter generator and the power station, plug everything in just to make sure it works, trip that breaker and make sure it's good to go before it becomes game time, basically, and I have to cross my fingers and hope that it's good to go. And you also want to check your fuel storage, and this isn't just for the generator, the inverter, the gasoline, or even the diesel for diesel heaters. This is all of your different types of fuel, whether you're talking about denatured alcohol or you're talking about even the isopropyl alcohol, butane, propane, all the different fuels that you might use for cooking or heating or whatever you may need them for. Make sure you're double checking and you have the amount of kerosene or whatever it is that you think you have. Next, we move on to food and water. And with this, you want to make sure you have no cooked foods available. Foods that are in a can or in a box, crackers, cereal, even SpaghettiOs and things like that that don't require any heating method whatsoever. It would be nice if you could, but you don't have to. You also want to find foods that take minimal preparation. So you've got the freeze-dried foods that are nice because they last for 25 years. They're not the greatest food in the world, not something you'd eat on a daily basis, but they do last for 25 years. You can heat up some water and cook those foods and have that be ready with very minimal preparation. We do sell legacy foods over at mysurvivalfoods.com, which is in my opinion, the best food on the market these days. There are some companies that are, pretty scammy. There are some that are decent, but if you are interested in something like this, maybe get a hold of me and we can go over exactly how much you might want or how much you might need, and I can get you the best price available. But if you've got a little bit of food stored, you can prepare these meals fairly easily. Also, make sure you have manual can openers and plastic silverware and even paper plates. The can openers, especially if you're using canned foods, you're going to want to have a way to open that when the grid is down. In a grid down type situation, it may be hard to wash dishes or you may not want to wash dishes. So having these available will make it a whole lot easier. And then all you have to worry about is the trash afterwards. And that only becomes an issue if things go on for quite some time. You're talking a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. Also, when it comes to food, you're not going to have the refrigeration or unless you have an option for that. So if you don't, have a cooler ready to store some of that food outside if you need it. In a winter storm, everything's going to be frozen outside. So you would probably be okay if you stored some meat or cheese or milk, things like that are going to spoil really quickly in a cooler outside. Another option would be a DC refrigerator, which is basically an electric cooler, a more expensive cooler. And these are great because they take very little power to run. With a Jackery 1000, you could run this over 24 hours straight easily. And with a LiFePO4 battery, you could run one for even longer than that. Also with water, I think we need to have about 30 gallons or so stored, and that's for 3 people. And that seems like a whole lot, but it really isn't when you think about what we are going to be using water for. Now, the longer that this goes on, you're not going to be able to store 10 gallons per person for a year, but when you're talking about something shorter term, you should absolutely be able to do that. And again, over at My Survival Foods, we sell 5-gallon jugs that you can put water in. They store really well. I've got a transfer switch here, but I still have about 80 gallons of water stored in these buckets just in case, because I'd rather use these than some of that electrical energy, and I'll go into that in a bit. But we do sell those over at My Survival Foods as well, and I'll leave links to the store in the video description below. But make sure without water, you don't have anything. So water is the most important thing to make sure you have. And also make sure you have the food and water for your pets as well. Now, most people, that doesn't take a whole lot. Dogs and cats don't drink a whole lot of water, and it's easy to store a lot of pet food. But like us, we have horses. So that means 10 to 15 gallons of water per day to water the horses. So that is a lot of water. And that's why I had to make sure I was able to power that well pump in a situation like this, because the power goes off in our area at least once a year. Also, what you could do for water, since we are in a situation where you do have a little bit of advance notice, are water bobs. And water bobs are basically a huge plastic bag you put in your bathtub and fill up. And that right there will give you 30, 40 gallons of water. However big your bathtub is, you can fill that up and you have nice, fresh, clean water to use in a situation like this. Water bobs are great for apartments or, condos, small homes, and places that get hurricanes, things like that. Water bobs are a great, they only cost a few bucks, and it's something hopefully you never need, but you're going to be glad you have it if you ever do. Next, we've got heat and comfort. And the first thing I do is make sure all of the different heating sources that I have that I may need to use are in good working condition. They're not, I know exactly where they are. They're not tucked away somewhere in the garage, and they are actually going to work. We already talked about making sure and having the fuel for those. But if you've got a buddy heater, if you've got a diesel heater, if you've got a kerosene heater, make sure those are in good working order. Diesel heaters need to be cleaned from time to time. The buddy heater, you just need to check sort of a visual inspection. But those you're going to really depend on, so you want to make sure those are going to work. I also did a video about different types of heat sources that's really good. You can watch that video. I'll leave the link right here, but it gives you a lot of ideas about different options you have in a winter storm, winter power outage. And in that video, I also talked about a designated warm room or a camp out room, whatever you want to call it. It's a room that you plan, it's a small area of your home that you plan on keeping warm. That way you don't have to warm the whole house. You just warm that one room and the whole family can stay in that room, and that will help increase how warm it is as well. But think about what room that's going to be in your home or what the best room might be. You also want to make sure, not just in that room, but the whole home, seal and insulate the doors and windows. This is something that could be done a little bit beforehand, and also something that could be done right before the storm. Say you want to put a little bit of extra plastic insulation over the windows, or maybe some blankets, some thermal curtains and things like that. Those are things you can do before that storm hits. And along with that, we have a couple bins of extra blankets, and we have coats galore. We've got 2 closets full of coats that, there's coats that I probably haven't worn in a couple of years. But bins of blankets is also nice to have. Different types of blankets, wool blankets, big comforters, and things like that are all good to have. Coats, gloves, coats, hats, all of those. I have probably 15 or 20 pairs of gloves and a bunch of different hats. All of those could be game changers when you're talking about a situation where everyone's freezing. If you warm yourself up first, then you can worry about the room around you and heating the rest of everything else up. Now, along with warmth, you're probably also going to want to have a little bit of entertainment. And this is something that gets overlooked a lot, because people are thinking about the life-saving stuff, not the boredom stuff. But having games, having DVDs and books, or even activities that don't require any power are really important to pass the time, because when there's no TV, when there's no internet, everything gets quite boring quite quickly. So you want to make sure everyone has something to keep themselves busy. And sort of along the same lines, you're talking about no internet, you've got to think about communications and information gathering. You want to make sure your NOAA, your crank radios, your walkie-talkies, and things like that are in working order. And you also want to make sure and have a backup power plan for your router or the internet. And a lot of situations, the internet may be down, but there could be situations where it's your neighborhood and the internet service itself is not affected, whether that be internet broadband or that be the fiber optic. Maybe those stations aren't affected, but yours is. If you can power up your router, you can get some information from the outside. This is something that you shouldn't plan on, but it is something you should have a plan for just in case, because you never know when it might actually work. You've got your ham radios, your GMRS radios, your walkie-talkies. Make sure all of those are in working order. And you also want to make sure to have printed phone numbers, important numbers, because these days nobody remembers phone numbers at all. It's all on their phone. So they type in the name or whatever, but they don't really remember the phone numbers. So it's important to have those printed out just in case that phone service actually works. And as well as printing out those important phone numbers, I also have a how-to list for items like the generator or the transfer switch. I mentioned my lights out kit. If I'm not home, I want to make sure everyone understands how to start the generator, the proper procedure to turn on the transfer switch, and how much power you can actually use with that before it's going to shut down. So make sure you have all that important information that people might need if you're not home or they can't get a hold of you in case this situation happens then. Now, a couple things that a lot of people miss when they're thinking about a grid down situation or a winter power outage, and that's that they don't necessarily think about coordinating with their neighbors and think about how important neighbors and community and teamwork is going to be in a situation like this. And this doesn't mean you've got to go, a month beforehand, go talk to your neighbor about winter preparedness and things like that. It just means making sure you get to know them. You have a good relationship with them. And that way, in a situation, if a situation like this does happen, they're not going to be put out by you going over there and talking to them, or they're not going to be hesitant to come talk to you. And you've got an ally in a situation like this, not somebody that is, totally reclusive and maybe even somebody that's going to cause problems. Neighbors, whether you like it or not, are going to be there in situations like this. So it's going to be better to have them on your side than not on your side. Another thing people that don't do quite often enough is practice a grid down day. And that is basically where you take the power, you shut the power down in your house, and you see how everyone will react to certain situations. You see which supplies will actually be the most useful. A lot of the times it turns out different than you expected. We've done this a number of times over the years. We're empty nesters now, so not as much as we used to, but we always try to test out the transfer switch, test out how much energy we're going to use, and see how it's going to affect us going through a 24-hour period in a situation like this. Again, with just Lisa and I, not a big deal. We can grab a book and we can pass the time. When the kids were here, it's a much different situation, and it's something that you ought to practice so they know what they're getting in for. Another thing is make sure you have a bug out bag ready. And this is something people think, well, I'm going to be snowed in. I'm not going to be able to go anywhere. Just like the internet, you never know. So make sure your vehicle and you have your bug out bag ready. All of those things are important because you just never know what might happen. And you just never know when the situation does call for you to get out of there, where it's safer to actually leave than to stay put. I've done a video about what we keep in our cars, which is a very good video about different supplies that you can keep in your car kit. Along with that, you want to make sure your car is maintained and topped, all the fluids are topped off, all the maintenance is done, and it is ready to go in a situation like this. If you want to watch that video about what to keep in your car, or give you ideas about what to keep in your car, you can watch that video here. With that, I am done with this video today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you all later.